Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We have close to 200 registrants for our program, so thank you all for your continued support of LVHA. Thank you as well to our sponsors for today's event, Miss Amanda Flom from Court for this beautiful furniture you'll see on our stage today, Miss Jean Armstrong and the amazing production team from Creative Technology, Miss Lisa Motley from the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, who is our moderator today. And thank you to our distinguished panelists for your time this afternoon. We've got a lot to talk about today, so without further ado, please welcome Reed Erickson, Vice President of Digital Services from Creative Technology. Reed?
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for having us. Jean Armstrong, in case you don't know her, my colleague. We're so happy to host all of you, so welcome. And whether we're extending our hospitality to you here in the studio or whether you're online watching through our CT Sebastian portal, we're so grateful to put our first-class capabilities to work for you. So I am so proud to stand in our brand new facility and for this to be the first production from our Carl Hampton stage. So a special thank you to our team who made this possible, Ben Ramsey, Casey De Los Santos, Matt Cochran, and our entire team, who, as well as Extended Reality Group, who let us use their scenic talents to kind of host this discussion, the world that we're standing in. I like to point out that this isn't real, only for today's points. We're making that clear. So just a moment, let me show you around for a bit. We have doubled down on innovation at Creative Technology and have created this permanent home, a test bed for our bleeding edge, cross, augmented, virtual, and many other reality capabilities here in Las Vegas. And so with that, as a prior production manager for the Florida Gators, I'm so excited to learn from all of you, the panelists. I'd like to introduce a short video showing the optimistic and exciting times in sports in Las Vegas. So Creative Technology team, let it roll.
Thank you, Reed. At this time, I'd like to introduce Miss Lisa Motley from the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. She is our moderator today, and as the Director of Sports Marketing and Special Events, we appreciate your time today. And go ahead and take it away, Lisa.
All right. Welcome to everybody joining us from home here in the studio. And thank you to Linda and all of LVHA and Creative Technologies for hosting us today. And a big thank you to my esteemed colleagues who are sitting on this panel with me today for being here and helping us share the story of how sports went uninterrupted throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. It won't be exactly what we focus on completely today. We'll look at the future and how the exciting things that are coming, as you saw in that video. And again, all four of you were present in that video, and we're very proud to showcase Las Vegas as the sports and entertainment capital of the world alongside with our great partners. So let's dive into it. COVID-19, the year we all learned to pivot, a word that I've been told to not keep using, but I just think it's fun. So let's explore what happened there. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Kevin Camper, who's not only my friend and colleague, but he's my mentor. He is the Chief Sales Officer for Speedway Motorsports, and he is joining us virtually today from North Carolina. So Kevin, welcome.
Thanks, Lisa.
So take us back to the beginning of the pandemic. NASCAR was viewed as America's sweetheart, as one of the leaders in providing live sports viewing for fans. but it was through esports. And again, last night they showed iRacing with Bristol Motor Speedway. How did that come to fruition, and what was the fan reaction?
Well, great question. And I think I had a subtle reminder last week when I got my Zoom renewal for my 12 months. So that kind of set the stage for me that it had been a year, which seems like in some ways it was 3 months, in some ways it was 5 years. But anyhow, I think those first couple of weeks, we quickly learned when things kind of went off the air that sport is something that brings our communities together. So with our partners at NASCAR, our partners at Fox Television, as well as the NASCAR teams and the tracks, we, to use your word, Lisa, pivoted. We already had our esports games up and rolling, and we were able to get the drivers to lean in and participate and quickly fill that programming time that's usually live sports on Saturdays and Sundays into that virtual space of esports, and the drivers loved it. So it was a great opportunity for us to drive entertainment value for our folks at home that really had nothing to watch other than the news each and every day. And it also it drove a lot of value for our partners because they got great TV exposure, and it kind of showed us a pathway forward to get back to the track actually about a month later. So it was actually a wonderful segue for us to do that, and it kept everybody collaborating and communicating each and every day, trying to get something going. So it was a great testament. NASCAR did a wonderful job of really leading the way, as you said, and we were able to get the whole regular season completed and then do the playoffs without any interruption, and even had several events throughout the playoffs where we had fans in attendance in a limited capacity. So we're very proud of what we did last year, and we've already started that for this season, and we look forward to many more events growing from a capacity standpoint, and getting people back into the venues and enjoying live entertainment.
And Kevin's is super modest, as we can all attest to. And I've always called him the best in the business when it comes to sponsorship. And imagine our surprise a couple years ago, they were building out the tracks for iRacing, and Las Vegas is one of the tracks. And Kevin was able to get branding exposure for us and all the Speedway Motorsports tracks a couple years ago, and that came into play on iRacing. So here you tune in on a Sunday morning and we're watching Las Vegas billboards at outside tracks. So thank you to you for always your continuous partnership and promoting Las Vegas as you do so well. So my next panelist and friend, Mr. Mike Newquist, he's the Senior Vice President of Events for UFC. Kind of along the same topic, NASCAR was a pioneer. Dana White was a true pioneer in keeping live sports in action. How did Fight Island come to be, and so talk me through Fight Island.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we went to Jacksonville and we had some events in early May, and what we were quickly finding out is that it was hard for us to bring international athletes and camps into Vegas. So we're in the middle of a pandemic, a lot of travel restrictions that we had in place. So we were thinking about international venues and cities, and we have a great partnership with the Abu Dhabi Department of Culture and Tourism, and started talking through hosting an event, not imagining at the beginning that it would turn into its own brand in Fight Island that just kind of blew up from there. But Fight Island, we ended up having a series of events and then ultimately multiple events. But the challenge that we had at the very beginning was, how do we bring in 800 people from every corner of the globe into one unique location? So what we had to do, we ended up with 11 different charter flights. We had charter planes going out of Las Vegas, out of London, out of Sao Paulo, out of Russia to accommodate. And then we also had some other flights coming in as well, but 11 charters that we had to do. We had to buy out an entire hotel to serve as our bubble, and then ultimately thousands of tests that we all had to take, where we were testing before we left, testing as soon as we landed, testing throughout the week, and then testing before the event. So, ended up with 0 positive results at first Fight Island in those thousands of tests. The athletes and camps and our staff, really took it seriously, not just there, but before they were coming to Abu Dhabi. But it was, I've been a part of Super Bowls, and the logistics of putting on Fight Island were like something that I haven't seen, and just in the short time frame that we had to put it all together, it was just fascinating to watch, and then ultimately to see the fans, how they reacted to it, and to have live action going on again, and then again its own brand was pretty cool.
So along those lines, we've got UFC Apex in our backyard, and we've been hosting fights there. How many protocols, or what do the protocols look like that maybe came from Fight Island or Jacksonville that we've implemented here to host fights?
Yeah, another great question. So, completely different than what we're used to. So to start off, we bought out 2 hotels here in Las Vegas that we've had bought out since last June. One for our athletes and camps, and a second hotel for all of our production folks. So that's the starting point, so that we could create a bubble-like environment that the athletes and camps, they're only at the hotel. All the drivers have been tested, all the hotel staff is tested, the athletes, the camps are tested, and really only going between the hotel and the Apex. So we've created this very safe environment, but very similar with testing that we found out that to help the bubble here in Las Vegas, let's make sure we test everyone before they even get on a plane. Let's test them as soon as they arrive, and let's test them again before the event. So, creating that operational plan and really working hand in hand with the Nevada Athletic Association, just really putting these protocols into place just to have a safe environment to be able to put on live events, and ultimately, for the fans to have live sport even back in May and June was pretty incredible.
And as a destination, we thank you. Obviously, you heard they were buying out hotels, so you're bringing room nights to the destination, not tourism that we're typically, equating to, but bringing visitors to Las Vegas, whether they were participants or not. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'll throw it over to my partner in crime, Tyler Baldwin, the Director of Booking and Entertainment for Orleans Arena at Boyd Gaming. So Tyler, Orleans Arena has played a key role in ensuring that sports were able to continue our dominance in Las Vegas. One of the first events actually hosted in a bubble format in Las Vegas was U.S. Figure Skating's Skate America. Walk us through how you were able to pull that off. Were there outside agencies that were brought into the fold to assist? Walk us through that.
I think you're going to hear the term bubble thrown around a ton today, and I hope that term goes away eventually. But I wanted to show the video from an athlete's point of view of what they went through, how they lived in a bubble. I'm sure similar to what UFC went through as well. So I wanted to show this video right now of what it's like to live in a bubble.
Okay, so it's the next morning. My COVID test has come back negative, so I will be able to go downstairs and get this wristband cut off and officially enter the bubble. But before I do that, I'm going to eat my breakfast. So before we entered quarantine, we were able to pick out meals we wanted to have, and then they were delivered to us. So I'm gonna eat that, go downstairs, get this cut off, and officially enter the bubble. Okay, so I have officially entered the Skate America bubble. They've been so great with providing us food. I live in California, so I was able to drive here, so I brought a lot of my own food as well. So here, I'm just fixing up some lunch, and then we're gonna be on some Zoom calls in a little bit, and then I'll let you guys know what goes on after that. Okay, so I'm just leaving practice. There's the arena, and then this area is kind of an area where we can warm up, some people warming up, and just kind of stretch out and be out of our rooms. So now I'm going back to the hotel. Every day we pass the pool on our way to the rink, but obviously we can't go in it. Gotta stay in the bubble. And then this is the hotel, and yeah, this is part of the walk. The arena is that way, and I'm going back to the hotel right now. So that's the rest of the hotel. We are blocked off because we have to stay in the bubble. In the elevator, there's only 4 people allowed in the elevator, so we can properly social distance. And then everybody is on the 3rd floor. This is what our floor looks like. We don't get room service while we're here because it's just better for everybody. So we drop our dirty towels and sheets there, and then we can pick up new stuff here. So here is a quick run through of our locker room. So we all have name placards. That's where we sit for the duration of the competition. And at any given time, there's always going to be at least 2 spaces in between girls. So Brady is a single skater, Madison is a dancer, and Audrey Lewis pairs. So we're never all in here at the same time, so we're able to social distance while we are in the locker rooms. So this is what our dining room looks like. We're able to go get what we would like there, and they serve us. And then we have tables, and only 4 people to a table, so we can properly social distance. And then just some signs reminding us that we have to keep our masks on when we're not eating. We ready?
So to our audience at home, obviously the Vegas Smart and meeting protocols is a thing that Vegas means business. We mean that. We don't want to be a super spreader destination, so we appreciate the Orleans and what you've done in that. So again, walk us through, how were you able to pull off that bubble format, and who all was involved?
Yeah, there's a ton of parties that were involved to make sure the event was a very safe and secure event. The athletes obviously have hesitation to travel in for these events from across North America to come in, so we want to make sure it was very easy and safe for them. It really started with U.S. figure skating and the USOC working together to first come up with a plan that they were looking for and how they wanted to operate the event in their minds. And then the Orleans stepped in to walk through that plan based on the directives provided by the state and revamp it to fit into the different protocols that were required to host that event. Once we had that playbook basically put together, and that playbook had to capture every good thing that could happen, every bad thing that could happen, for if an athlete tested positive before they arrived, while they arrived, after they arrived, but so many aspects that you have to think about that never had done before this pandemic. But once that plan was put together, then it was provided to the Southern Nevada Health District for their feedback, for their review, and worked very closely with them. And then being a gaming property gave us a little bit different of approval process going through the Gaming Control Board. And so they were the ultimate decision maker on the Gaming Control Board front. They had feedback that they provided to us, but ultimately got the decision or the approval from them on it. It was a lengthy process, but we were glad to work through that, and amazing how many parties were involved that all came together to help put that plan together.
So those kind of events didn't necessarily drive tourism with heads in beds, but obviously great brand awareness and exposure for the destination. Drawing on the success of that bubble, were you able to secure additional events at Orleans because of that success?
And believe it or not, the room block though for that, great for the destination, was 3,000 room nights, which is a very large block in of itself any time of the year for a single property to have that many rooms. But yeah, the buzz from that event was unlike any other that I'd seen, from CVBs in other markets calling to find out how we successfully did this, other venues across the country, and then just events in themselves calling to talk about or to wanting to bring the events in this safe and secure property that we were able to provide them. And the biggest one and was a no-brainer, U.S. Figure Skating had just done Skate America with us. Within 4 days of that event ending, they had awarded the U.S. Figure Skating National Championships, which is a monster world championship event for them that normally takes multiple years to plan and gets awarded through a lengthy bid process. And to have that event and turn around in a couple days or a couple months to produce that event, but having that playbook already in place of what we did really helped us land that event. It also helped with our new Henderson Silver Knights, all the visiting teams that are coming in to compete against them, having a safe and secure place. I think the biggest aspect of it though was WCC and WAC, and getting through figure skating and be able to host all these March Madness tournaments, and the city did 5 tournaments this year. And just to add, a little bit different for those tournaments. They were unable to fall under the NCAA guidelines, which really helped streamline the process for all five tournaments that were in Las Vegas, where T-Mobile had different approval processes, Thomas & Mack had different approval processes, but that approach really helped us streamline so everybody had the same consistency, the same approval processes.
Maybe we should have brought Oral Roberts to town so my bracket wouldn't have been busted and kept them under protocols. So our last esteemed panelist, Mr. Patrick Lindsey, he is the tournament director for the Shriners Hospitals for Children's Open. We're going to pop the bubble. So let's talk about your event. It's a must attend for everybody each year. You fall on the calendar in October of 2020 last year, so you're kind of in the middle of the pandemic and your whole mind frame is, are we going to have fans? Are we going to have players? What did your team learn through that process?
Oh, I mean, we learned a ton. And every turn, it seemed like we learned something different. You know, when the pandemic started in March, you know, we thought when October came around, you know, maybe we would be able to have some fans. Maybe we were able to have an event where we could host some people on site. But it seemed like every kind of turn along the way kind of ultimately pushed us to not having any fans. But, you know, one thing that really positive came away from it, and I think that we learned, was just how to be better teammates to each other, how to understand the resources that we had available. And I'm not really just talking about our core team of five, the 5 individuals that I have in my staff that are in my office at TPC Summerlin working on the event year round, but you know, it's our team members that work at Shriners headquarters in Tampa, Florida. It's our PGA Tour team with the title sponsor relations team that we work with, our tournament business affairs team, and then also just the vendors that are part of the traveling circus of the PGA Tour, and how we lean on them to make sure that we're putting on a successful event. You know, there was a time that all PGA Tour events were kind of on hold, and then we started bringing PGA Tour back in June at the event in Fort Worth, the Colonial, and all of those events before us helped provide a roadmap for us to being able to have an event. But you know, we really were able to learn, you know, how to stay patient, how to stay on our toes, how to know what our role was within the team, and then also to maximize what we were eventually going to be able to do.
Fantastic. So I think we all find that with these vaccinations becoming readily available, Las Vegas is in a great place to transition back to business. If you go on the Strip now, I mean, it's crowded. It's almost like it never happened. Again, we're still being safe. Vegas smart. So Kevin, congratulations on a successful Pennzoil 400 a few weeks ago. Really one of the most exciting races in recent memory, not just at LVMS, but NASCAR in general. You were allowed 12,500 fans, which is really a far cry from what we're used to in the destination. But looking positively ahead, what's the future for the fall South Point 400? What are the hopes?
Well, I mean, our hope is it's 100%, right? I mean, I think there's a large schedule of events. You know, Patrick's events in October. We want to see fans back at Allegiant Stadium, and we definitely want to have events at T-Mobile. So if you think in the Orleans and all the other venues that we have in town, so we're cautiously optimistic that, you know, the vaccination programs will continue to be successfar, and as well as whether it's herd immunity or whatever it may be, and we continue to see the numbers going in a positive direction so far. So yeah, well, you mentioned March. We were hopeful to have a few more people, and I think we did a nice job of making sure people were safe and felt secure and healthy as far as, you know, coming to and from our venues. And we're looking forward to a NHRA event next month at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway drag strip that will have 50% approval. The challenge is when you socially distance folks in seating pods, it's not really 50%. You're probably more in line of a 30% type situation. So I think as you talk about the fall, we're hopeful that we can garner 100%, which will bring people back to the destination. And it is busy on the Strip, and you know, I understand we want to keep people safe, and but there's a lot of people. There's a lot of pent up demand for sure. I've kind of coined the phrase revenge spend It seems that there's a lot of people wanting to do that. I was in Atlanta last week for the NASCAR event there. I'm actually on the East Coast today, headed up to Bristol, Tennessee, where we'll have 2 days of racing this weekend, where they have 35,000 people each day. That's completely sold out based on what the state and local government is Tennessee's allowing. So it definitely shows that the consumer is excited to get back out. I still think there's probably a small segment that wants to be safe and cautious as it relates to that, and probably not the right thing for them to get out in amongst large crowds. But I think ultimately we're very hopeful that come the fall that we'll be back at hopefully at full capacity. I mean, that's what we would love to see, but we need to be able to do it safe and smartly as far as that goes. So we'll continue to work with the state and local folks and showcase the destination as best as possible.
We appreciate that as always. Mike, shifting over to you, bringing it back outside of if we can't attend an event, we can watch UFC live. I don't have any data to back this up, but I'm a firm believer that UFC really was responsible for a large uptick in subscribers for ESPN+. So walk us through the relationship with UFC and ESPN ESPN+, and what that future holds.
Yeah, good question. So, our partnership with ESPN is, right at the top. We have an unbelievable relationship with them. And thinking back to the beginning of the pandemic as we were pushing through and we were the first sport to come back. So all of a sudden ESPN had the content that they were craving. And, frankly, we had the exposure too at that time where you're seeing us across SportsCenter, you're seeing us scrolling across the bottom and, getting to an audience that's much more mainstream. So I think, when you talk about a true partnership where both benefit, our ESPN partnership certainly is. During, this past year when we didn't have fans in the arena, we still saw tremendous growth in our sponsorship revenue, in our consumer products revenue, in our OTT product. So tremendous growth, and completely attributed to our ESPN partnership that we're on the air consistently. And you mentioned ESPN Plus, and I think it's pretty fantastic when you think about a Disney earnings call, and the CEO of Disney is calling out UFC, and something you would never expect, but saying, because of UFC and the partnership that we have, where we're driving subscriber growth to ESPN Plus, like you mentioned, and if you look across their earnings calls, and the beginning of 2019, where they had 2 million subscribers as we were starting. Fast forward a year later, they publicly announced 6 million subscribers. And then their Q4 call coming out of this year, as we were helping to lead that charge, they doubled it again to over 12 million subscribers. So it truly is a partnership, and you're seeing it in real data, how our sport has grown and how their ESPN Plus strategy has grown, which ultimately leads up to the larger Disney strategy. So pretty incredible for us to be a part of Disney's overall growth. And we have multiple years with ESPN as we're lining up new content and new events. So it's just, we couldn't ask for a better partnership than what we do have with ESPN.
It's incredible. So let's talk about a vertical you'll probably be hearing a lot more over the years, the youth and amateur vertical. It's a multi-billion-dollar segment that the LVCVA is very aggressively going after, along with the likes of Orleans Arena. So, Tyler, outside of concerts, what percentage of your calendar is booked with youth and amateur type events?
Yeah, and first I want to say the youth and amateur segment in Las Vegas, although it's been around and it's been a big part of the growth of Las Vegas, it does not exist without Lisa Motley as the driving force behind the youth and amateur sports, and all she does to build the relationships with a lot of these groups that have come to town. So thank you so much for all that you do on that. For the Orleans, 50% of what we do on the arena side of things is in that youth and amateur bucket, and not just on the arena side, on the hotel group sales side of the business, over 50% of that, all the room groups that come to that property are sports and fall into that bucket as well. And it's the growth that I've seen over the last even 5 years, or even the last few years, has been astronomical on what we've seen for those types of events. Lisa always says the low hanging fruit, and it's a huge profitable segment for all of Las Vegas, especially the Orleans. So it's not easy to grab, and it takes time to build those relationships with them. But what we've been able to do as a destination on that and build up that segment, I think has really done wonders for the growth of Las Vegas.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Jenny Bunshu. She is the sports marketing and special events manager for the LVCVA. Her dedicated vertical is youth and amateur, and she is tirelessly, especially during this COVID pandemic, turning over every rock to squeeze any piece of business we can get and drive tourism to Las Vegas. So Jenny, if you're watching at home, we couldn't do it without you. This one's for you. And Tyler, maybe you can define for the audience what youth means and what amateur means. I think everyone thinks it's T-ball tournaments, and that's not necessarily what that means.
Yeah, there is every single weekend there is softball and there's baseball and there's soccer tournaments in the youth sector of that, and those are every single weekend. But Olympic sports, all of our NCAA basketball events, all the NCAA events that the city went after this past bid cycle, cheerleading events, which have just grown as well for us specifically at the Orleans. But so many of those events that we are actively pursuing and going after, but there's just so many out there, and it's so, I laugh when we go to these conferences and they just assume Vegas doesn't have interest in these youth events, and they still think we're an adult-driven town, and they're blown away by how actively we pursue some of these youth events.
And playing off the youth and amateur, we were very fortunate. We were awarded 5 NCAA bids to host in the 2022 to 2026 cycle for golf. And I think that came to be because of the popularity of our Shriners Hospitals for Children's Open. So, Patrick, something that's always blown my mind when I've heard the backstories, and I guess I'm fortunate to have that, how do you recruit players to play in Shriners, and how do you engage the local community to do that?
Yeah, this is one of our more kind of success stories of the event that we've done in the last few years. You know, when I took over the event in 2015, you know, it was kind of no secret that, you know, our field was weak, and in order for us to kind of get to and fulfill the goals that we had for the event, we needed to increase that. And you kind of look at some of those goals that we had at the time and still have. I mean, our revenues were down. We weren't selling out our Pro-Am. You know, the attendance on site wasn't great. Our TV ratings weren't great. So, you know, you kind of start stacking all these things up, and you start figuring out, you know, why is that and how do we improve that? And basically all roads kind of led back to, you know, if we can increase the competition inside the ropes and get the top players in the event to come and play this event, then all of those things start going up. And that's exactly what has happened. But in order to get there, you know, we had to be active in the recruitment side. So we started going to events, and we being myself, some executive committee members that we have in market that are here to help me, brought some patients to some events. Some Shriners employees at headquarters went to events with us and just started making it known that we want the top players in the world to come play. So it was having conversations with Ricky Fowler and Brooks Koepka and their teams, you know, Phil Mickelson and his team, and just making sure that they know that we wanted them to be here. And that's, you know, that was a big key. And, you know, we weren't active in that before. But aside from that, you know, we were able, through those conversations, you know, understand what they're looking for. You know, where do they want to stay? What accommodations are they looking for? You know, what do they want to do while they're in town? So we started gathering that information and that data, and started putting together this nice little hospitality program for them while they're here. And, you know, we were able to do that because we're in the best destination in the world right here in Las Vegas. So whatever they wanted, we were going to be able to, you know, help them get to or help provide to them. So that was a piece of it. And then, you know, in 2018, at the Tour Championship, and we were able to do something special in 2018 and 2019. and that was to work with a couple of partners in town to create a player recruitment gift at the Tour Championship. So if you don't know, the Tour Championship is the last event on the PGA Tour schedule. It has the top 30 players from that season. And it's really all the guys that we want, all the guys that help us sell tickets. They're the ticket movers, as I call them. And it's important that we had those guys in the field. So what we did in 2018, we partnered with the Las Vegas Golden Knights, and we partnered with them in order to get our hands on 30 Golden Knights jerseys. We customized each one of those jerseys with the player's name on the back on each one of those jerseys, which was a little challenging because we had a real quick turnaround because we don't know who's in that Tour Championship until the week before. So it was a really quick turnaround, but the Knights were able to help pull it off for us. So we were able to give all 30 of those guys at the Tour Championship a gift from the community that really showed them that, it's not just us that wanted them to come play, it was the community that wanted them to come play. And we paired that with a little video in 2018 and 2019 from, a patient ambassador who's a star, who's featured in all of our commercials. Alec, I'm sure you all have seen him in our commercials. But he speaks so well to the charity, and then also is just a sports fanatic. So it was easy for him to do that for us. And then in 2019, Mike, you're probably not aware of this. We worked with Lawrence Epstein and the team there with the merchandise in the merchandise team to create a UFC package. So we had this great little UFC package where Dana White wrote a letter to each of the pros asking them to come play the event. We got them some UFC gloves. We had a walkout hoodie with each of the players' names and their country flag on the back as well. So, another just gesture from the community, that we wanted them to come play and the community wanted them to be here. And, I will never forget John Rahm coming up to me on the driving range, or I think it was on the putting green there at the Tour Championship in Atlanta, just saying, best gift he's ever received to come play in an event. Unfortunately, he couldn't play, but hopefully we'll get him in the future years. But he loved it, and that helped us just stand out. And with all of these 40 plus PGA Tour events, we needed to stand out more than what we were. And those two things, and our partners now in the community helped us do that. So you've got that, you've got the Las Vegas destination, you've got incredible weather, and then you start talking to them about the charity and Shriners Hospitals for Children and everything that they play for there. And all of a sudden, just our competition kept getting better and better and better. And the last 2 years has just been incredible. And it was our executive committee, our local partners, and our charity that was really able for us to put together this incredible message to get guys to come play.
So I think it's an important thing for everyone to know at home that these players don't play in every tournament, and we have to actively recruit. So if you are interested at home in being part of the next Las Vegas invitation and recruiting, I'm sure Patrick would be happy to share his information.
For sure.
I mean, we would love to put more destination in the goodie bags.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what the future holds for all of our events. Kevin, what markets is NASCAR currently targeting? Are there any emerging markets that you guys are focused on?
That's a good question, Lisa. We if you follow the NASCAR schedule year in and year out, you noticed a couple of changes this year. Our company, Speedway Motorsports, which historically hosts 13 NASCAR weekends throughout the U.S., we moved away from our market in Kentucky this year and moved an event to Austin, Texas, and we're going to run the first ever NASCAR event on the Circuit of the Americas facility, which we're super excited about. That'll be in late May. And then here a couple of weeks ago, we announced a management partnership that is not 100% complete yet, but we are kind of probably in about the fourth inning of a 9-inning baseball game with our friends in the city of Nashville to bring Nashville NASCAR racing back to the Nashville Fairgrounds, which we're super, super excited about as well. So we are targeting a couple of different areas from that standpoint. We think Texas is, we already have a facility in Fort Worth, so we're super bullish on the state of Texas, and a lot of it dictated by where we could have fans attending. So that kind of helped position where we wanted to go and how we wanted to go about it. But as we think about the sport of NASCAR, a couple of big things happened late last year. The diversity and inclusion piece that we were very forward thinking about as an industry and a sport. We kind of bubbled right up to the top. Michael Jordan decided that he wanted to dip his toe into the sport, and now he's a car owner. Bubba Wallace is his driver in the 23 car. Their team is 2311. So Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin have joined forces, and they run a Toyota car in our sport each and every week. We had a great music performer, Pitbull, decided that he wanted to align with a Nashville music artist. And so he decided he got in the ownership game as well. So we start to look at that, and it really changes the game. We as a sport late last year were ranked 9th in the fastest growing brands in the 18 to 30 demographics. And I think we all have that 18 to 30 demographics in our definitely in our on our windshield headed forward, because we know that's going to be the future of event goers and folks that will be coming to our destination. So we're super excited about that. And I know we're probably going to have a pause on the international travel for a little bit until things completely open up. So for us, we feel like really focusing on the regional consumer is probably the best spot for us to spend our efforts as we look at our different markets across the country, and specifically as we think about Vegas, which Southern California is a huge market. Utah, Arizona are all great feeder markets to come into our NASCAR events as it relates to Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Super exciting for the sport to branch out into new markets like Nashville and in Austin. And obviously reaching that 18 to 30-year-old, iRacing has helped pave the way to reach that millennial generation, which we're all kind of struggling. How do we communicate to them? So I think NASCAR has kind of figured out something that will be a best practice for years to come. And love that you're number 9 in that brand standing. That's fantastic. All right, Mike, my 2 favorite facilities in Las Vegas, the UFC Performance Institute and UFC Apex. They were constructed in 2017. How does each fit into your business model for growth, and how will that impact tourism for the destination overall?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the UFC, our headquarter in Apex is just, it's unbelievable, as you've seen. And I think, Vegas is our home, and it's our global headquarter. And I think even, when we look at our broadcasts and we have events here in Vegas, and, we're showcasing the Strip, and we're showcasing the hotels, and we're showcasing the great weather and all the people on the Strip. And, it's been valued at tens of millions of dollars in exposure for every event. So we're very, very proud to have our home here in Las Vegas. And, when you look at our headquarter, a couple of things, as we look at recruitment, and as you're trying to recruit employee talent, and we're building the best production facility in the world, and then the best sporting facility headquarters in the world. And so as we're trying to recruit talent against the big cities and recruit against some of the major league sports, and to be able to have executive talent come in, that was a big piece of the headquarter. And then with the Performance Institute, what we had before is a lot of people, a lot of our athletes that were training at home, training in market, didn't have quite as structured of an approach as what we have. So now we built this facility. We toured the Dallas Cowboys facility. We toured Manchester City. We toured University of Alabama to create the greatest sports performance center that the world had seen. And so athletes, instead of staying in market, decided to either move here to Las Vegas so that they could train here, or else they're coming in early and maybe spending weeks at a time in a hotel in the city to train before an event. So really been a key piece of our kind of overall planning here in Vegas. And then with the Apex, pretty fortunate timing that we had purchased that building. So we had 150,000 square feet of space that we built into a state-of-the-art production facility and broadcast operations center. So, fortunately we were able to host our events there and have this global studio there. But longer term, the plan is, so here we have this, state-of-the-art movie studio. that can compete against some of the studios in Los Angeles. You know, we've had ad agencies that have reached out to us to film television commercials there, you know, so take over weeks at a time to film. Potentially, we've had some of the promoters reach out about residency rehearsals come into the space. So we just have, you know, this beautiful, you know, production facility that we're able to, you know, fortunately bring in outside talent as we continue to move out, and we don't have as many of our UFC events at the Apex, that we're able to, you know, start hosting other events, other talent, and really showcasing Las Vegas to them.
And I think for the audience at home too, if you haven't had the privilege to go visit UFC Apex and Performance Institute, once they get back open, not under COVID protocols, it's a great venue and unique venue for meeting planners or bringing a reception to a different unique space that only Las Vegas could offer. So I would recommend that too.
Please do.
So Tyler, you're currently the home to the Henderson Silver Knights. You've hosted previously the US Hockey Hall of Fame game, which my Gophers lost to North Dakota, but it's all right. The Wranglers, and then Continental Cup of Curling. So big array of ice events. What other type of events do you actively pursue outside of ice?
Yeah, and stepping back before we get into the actual events, a few years ago, we wanted to see if we could separate ourselves from some of the other venues and do things a little bit differently. And we took an approach of kind of that one-stop shop. And normally you would deal with one person to book your arena, negotiate that deal, then your hotel rooms get dealt with the different department, and ends up being a hassle for the promoters and clients that want to come to our market and dealing with multiple people. And so we transitioned to that one-stop shop where one person is looking at a property as a whole and negotiating your venue needs, your hotel room needs, your catering needs, which I think really helped us go after a lot of these sporting events. And they have so many moving parts on these events that we've hosted, from curling to figure skating to our basketball tournaments and everything we've done. So I really do think that's what's helped us go after some of these really large events for the destination and make sure we're part of that sports capital of the world, as you always say. We're constantly traveling to conferences and going up to Colorado Springs, and a big initiative is the Olympic sports. And that's been the area where I've spent a lot of time focusing on those types of events, and they have done wonders for our brand at the Orleans Arena. Most folks know we do a lot of basketball, and we do over 70 basketball games a year at our building without a main tenant from WCC, West Coast Conference, Western Athletic Conference. But we just added some additional basketball events for this calendar year as well as 2022. So an area that we're actively going after. And then obviously the Henderson Silver Knights are building their own venue down in Henderson. So that franchise will be heading down here to Henderson very soon. And so we're always on the lookout for a new sports franchise if it makes sense for the destination and for our building. But really the area that it's the outside the box events. And there's only so many of these staple events that can come to the market, but those outside the box events like curling is a prime example. The first time they approached us, we passed on it, thinking who from Canada wants to come to Las Vegas to watch curling in the desert? And I don't even know what curling is other than watching it on the Olympics. I just assume they drink all the time. And so lo and behold, we hosted that event, and record-breaking year in 2016 with over 65,000 tickets sold, all from Canada for the most part, coming to the market. So those outside the box events that either we can grow into these massive events, or events that we can bring here that folks don't always know about, but it has done wonders for our property.
So I think one thing you touched on was going after the Olympic sports. And I think for the audience, it's important to know, obviously you know that LA is going to host the 2028 Olympics. So that's been a strategy we've worked with very closely with a lot of our partners. How do we build that up going into the Olympic year? Can we host the World Championships? Could we be a training facility because we're on the West Coast? So love that we're still attracting those events and really kind of hitting that hard. All right, Patrick. New kind of initiative, not really a new initiative, but a big topic, community social responsibility. Obviously, Shriners Hospitals is in the name. name of your tournament, what are some of the community social responsibility initiatives that Shriners does for Las Vegas?
Well, for me, when it comes to talking about the hospital and just Shriners as a whole, and the two organizations that they have between the fraternity and the hospital, there's two main things that we work on site with that. One on the medical side, and just kind of the mission of what Shriners Hospitals is, and what that comes down to is providing specialty medical care to children 18 years and younger, regardless of the family's ability to pay. So there's two main things there, the specialty medical care, but then regardless of the family's ability to pay. And what we wanted to do to kind of match that on site, and just to continue to make sure that families know that they're welcome on site, is that we started a ticketed initiative about 5 years ago when I came on board, where any child 18 years and younger, consistent with our mission, is going to get into the event for free with a ticketed adult. But those children are going to be able to come on site, get exposed to golf, understand a little bit about what Shriners does and the mission of the hospital, for free on site. And we're excited to continue to do that. And we've seen more and more families come on site as well and take advantage of that. So we're really excited about that. And then kind of consistent with the fraternity side, the fraternity side is all about, volunteering and volunteerism and promoting, Shriners to the world through volunteering. So with the PGA Tour, and we are no different at our PGA Tour event, it takes about 1,000 volunteers to run a PGA Tour event. So, we kind of bring our community together through that volunteer opportunity, and those 1,000 volunteers. Some years we might be about 950. Other years will be closer to 1,200. And those volunteers, majority of them are from here locally, Las Vegas, because we do have an incredible volunteer presence in the community. But we do have volunteers coming down from Canada and from Europe. As far as India, Shriners brings about 400 volunteers as well. So we're really kind of proud of how our volunteer program exists, what they do on site, and it ends up being just this great, big happy family on site, and everyone just there volunteering and supporting a great cause and seeing some great golf. And then last thing I want to talk about real quick is a program that's really gotten a lot of esteem on site, is our Stand and Bearer program, where we do bring a bunch of patients on site to basically act as a volunteer, and to be able to walk 18 holes with a PGA Tour player and see those patients who have already overcome so much out there, walking 3 to 5 miles, on a golf course, working for us and volunteering for us. And that has really kind of brought our community together on site, and really has been able to showcase our patients to the community as well. So it's been a really great program that we've been able to do.
Incredible. So I've gotten the 10-minute warning for my Fitbit going off. Apparently I need to get my steps. So I guess we'll do this last segment kind of in rapid fire. I always like to peel back the curtain for people and talk about things you may not know. So Kevin, always a pleasure to see you, and an honor to have worked with you. And I remember the first time I got there and I was told Las Vegas Motor Speedway hosts more than 1,400 event days a year. What does that look like?
So great question, Lisa. And we love telling people about it, because they're like, there's only 365 days in the calendar. So how does 1,400 fit into it? We like to call Las Vegas Motor Speedway the most diverse motorsports facility, not just in North America, but all around the world. And so just to kind of start out, we had 3 pretty much year-long tenants or partners with us. So we've got NASCAR Racing Experience, Dream Racing, and Exotics Racing, which operate anywhere from 150 to 300 days a year. So you think about that, that could be 3 events going on, every day of the week. So that's one thing. And then I think probably the thing in the past 10 years that we've gotten known for the most outside of NASCAR and NHRA is the Electric Daisy Carnival. So, they come on our property and take over 17 to 20 days, and they really turn the Speedway into a magical place for really 3 nights, where you have 180,000 people coming through each night, which is pretty incredible. But outside of that, we have multiple dealer meetings, new product launches with vehicles. We've hosted the World Long Drive. It was made for a made-for-TV event. We've had multiple best-in-class dog shows that we do in our NASCAR garages, which you would never think you would do your, a dog show at Speedway. But so you name it, we can figure out how to do something from the diversity that we try to bring. And we love to tell people that if you have an idea, we'll listen to it and figure out how to make it work. So I know you're up against the hour, so I will. I appreciate the time, LVHA and the creative technology folks. We appreciate you having us. So anyway, thanks, Lisa. It's always a pleasure to visit, and the panelists. Great to see everyone, although via Zoom, but it's neat to see technology working. So,
All right, thank you, sir. All right, Mike, 30 seconds or less. What can we expect from UFC in 2022?
Well, I think first thing is getting back to live events on the road. I think you'll see our big events here in Vegas. You'll see our Tough Show here in Vegas. You'll see Contender Series here in Vegas. And I also think you'll see a big focus on our Fight Pass product, which is our OTT platform, which is a very important part of our overall global growth.
It's fantastic. Tyler, this is something we've talked about, and shout out to Dan Rush and Sarah Kirchberg if they're out there too. And everyone knows the inside joke of rising tides raise all ships. Thank you, Brett Lashbrook. So in a city with multitude of venues, how do you all work together to bring events to the destination?
And it's funny, and you hear this all the time when we go to these conferences, they all think we compete, and that's completely false. We've all carved out our niches, South Point with the equestrian events, Raider Stadiums with the mega events, T-Mobile, and the Orleans Arena on those mid-sized sporting events. And we actually work collectively together. Perfect example quickly, the NCAA events that you worked tirelessly on the 100+ bids for this first ever NCAA bid cycle that we had the opportunity to do. It wasn't just let's all grab the events that we can and compete with each other. It's strategically let's figure out what events make the most sense in what venue, which I think helped us get awarded the 20 some odd events we did for this first NCAA bid cycle. So I laugh when people say we compete.
I appreciate that. And then Patrick, to wrap it up for us today, from a fan's perspective, any cool new activations that we're going to look forward to in October of this year?
Well, first of all, we just are looking forward to having fans back. We hope that you're going to come out and see your other friends and your family and be out here and gather together in whatever socially responsible manner that is at the time. You're going to see the Hill come back, and you're going to see us continue to add to a product that we unveiled a couple years ago called the Point off of number 17. We're going to have a new strategy to make holes 16 and 17 into a fun, lively, be seen type environment that our friends down at Phoenix, at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, have done such an incredible job on their hole 16, and as they expand out, it's now our turn to have a strategy that brings all of those things together as well. So we're going to start building on that moving forward.
Gentlemen, I thank you for your time today, and most importantly, all of your tireless efforts to help position Las Vegas as the sports and entertainment capital of the world. So thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Lisa, Kevin, Mike, Patrick, Tyler, thank you for sharing with all of us the amazing efforts taken in keeping the world of Las Vegas sports uninterrupted, and can't wait to see what the future holds. Vegas strong, right? Thank you. Again, real quick shout out to our sponsors, Court, as well as the awesome production team for Creative Technology. By the way, LVHA is the first event to be held in these new studios, which is incredible, incredible. Thank you, Gene. Thank you so much. That concludes our program. Please mark your calendar for April 21. We're going live at the Palace Station. We're going to have a hospitality appreciation luncheon. Our theme will be the Kentucky Derby, so ladies, break out the fanciest hat you can find. Gentlemen, pull out your flat caps, and if you want to put a little bling on them, we'll be okay with that as well. We're going to have some amazing prizes for the hat contest. Thank you again, everybody, for attending today, and we will see you next month.